Hello and welcome to another We Are Developers Live. Today we have a special edition because Dan couldn't come, so it's just me and the guest. And we're going to be talking about a few things that are happening at the moment. We're going to play Fake or News, and then our guest has a topic that he brought with slides and everything and the demo, so we can actually talk through these bits and bobs and get more acquainted with what we do. So without further ado, the mystery guest of today is not a mystery at all because it's Martin O'Hanlon from Neo4j. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I'm really well, thank you. It's a sunny day here. The sun's coming through the window. It's making me feel good, alive, and happy to chat.
Wow. Yeah, we just been at the Silicon Valley for a week, and it's the first thing that I told him 3 times, but he forgot about, is that San Francisco and the Silicon Valley is about 10 degrees difference. So everybody buys the San Francisco overpriced hoodie about just not freezing. And so for the half the trip, he had worn my clothing and I wore my clothing the other day. So it was interesting to see. And when I came back, what I realized mostly in Europe compared to America was the amount of pollen that came in the air. Like, because I'm allergic, and I was like, in California there was nothing, and out of a sudden I come back here and they're like, holy crap, my whole car was yellow with like things coming on it.
Yeah, I'm looking out the window right now at a bush which is covered in flowers, and I'm sure the same problem exists here in the UK as well, right?
So yeah, it seems like the whole, like, the cleanliness of it, or everything being so weirdly brushed and stuff. We don't do that in Europe, so that's interesting to see the main difference. Also, I'm very happy to just have a mug again and drink from it, and not have like a plastic cup in a plastic wrapper with a paper cup inside it that you have to have a little like tray of coffee in the coffee machine that you throw away. The amount of plastic that you generate with every interaction in hotels in America is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I don't like the little pods.
Yeah,
the little coffee pods that you put in things. I find myself just like why? It's like coffee in a wrapper, yeah.
I mean, you got 2. You got the plastic ones with the aluminum foil on top of it. That's absolutely atrocious. But for one coffee, and then you got like the tea bags, round things that are just soggy. So that's the other thing. I've seen people do jewelry of repurposed of these coffee mug thingies, like so earrings and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But at the same time, I guess all these companies said they're going to take them back and recycle them, and it turned out that none of them did. So,
oh really? It's just
it's a lot of greenwashing going on. Like,
yeah, a big bag
makes you wonder if they're going to pivot next into being a cloud provider, much like the shoe company we had a few weeks on the show. So Allbirds, the shoe company, is now a cloud provider.
Did I hear recently? Was it Lidl or Aldi now provide technology services for? I'm sure I heard this.
All part of one group, like that do like a lot of like cloud infrastructure in Germany as well. Like they're part of, I can't remember the name right now, Schwarz IT, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And they're doing and they're now building like huge data centers in Germany as well, all like with green technology behind it. So that's pretty cool, like a wind farm next to it that powers the whole thing. So yeah, but you wouldn't expect that, like a Lidl infrastructure, or like, I mean, it's like Tesco value internet services or something. But they also had like probably just branded. They had like SIM cards for like and data services as well, so you can get like 2 GB data on checkout as well. So that's interesting to see.
That is really interesting. Yeah.
Cool. So we have private chat, Lidl mobile service. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So let's see if we can talk to Lidl people soon, to people from Lidl. That might be a better idea. Cool. So let's talk about some things that I collected that we can have a quick chat about before we go into your stuff. So the first thing that did the rounds, and I didn't want to cover it too much in the newsletter or anything like that, is of course that Google actually installs a 4 GB AI model on your device for every Chrome user, and people were just go all up in arms because it was without consent. It feels like back in the days when out of a sudden a U2 album showed up on my iPod that I didn't download, but I think it's an unfair comparison because people like LLMs, other than YouTube. But
I think interestingly, so I saw a recent short form video, recent TikTok video, I think, about that release of that release of that album onto every iPod, with a starting point of things that happened that we have forgotten that we shouldn't have, right? So, as a lesson for the future, right? And this very much fits within that category, right? It's not necessary. Well, the action's not great, but what people were most upset about was the without consent, right? You didn't ask me, you didn't tell me. It's outside of what would be normally expected, right? But I do think, unlike the YouTube thing, right? Are we going to see more of this? Because, it's about experience, right? And the closer the model is to the end user, the better the experience. So I do wonder whether we'll see more of this. And I think that without consent is the big challenge here.
I think, it felt to me like that they just jumped the gun a bit and tried to do it. And I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, when he says here that a billion device scale, the climate costs are insane. I think, but that's the idea. Like having AI on device would mean that you don't have the latency going to the cloud. You don't have the cloud services actually burning lots of water and stuff. So I think there's two sides to that. Like, I'm a big fan of on-device AI. I'm not a big fan of companies just installing things without my consent, and that's, I guess, the issue. The other bit that was interesting when you look behind the scenes, like when you're in the browser world, and every other browser maker said like, let's not do it, and Google is just like, okay, let's try it out. I mean, they're at the forefront of it. The Web AI group leads are all in Google as well, and I like the idea of my machine taking part of the strain of AI if it has the resources. But the question is, of course, like, what do we do with it? I mean, we had this discussion with the head of Web AI at the conference last week, and we're gonna have the podcast coming out soon. And I said, like, I remember SETI at home when we all shared part of our resources of our computers to find life in the universe. And I feel AI could be the same. Like, we could have a mesh network of all machines out there that actually share the compute power to actually get the load sorted between us rather than just in the cloud. But I mean, of course, that's also a privacy concern, and also I mean, what if the shared model gets poisoned? What do we do then, kind of thing?
Yeah, I do wonder whether, if the model had been for want of a better word, a pop-up or an option that said, we can improve your user experience by downloading this model, whether they would have had greater take-up and a lot less backlash.
Probably. Also, I'm more like okay, here's like 5 different versions. Here's the nano model, here's the bigger model, here's the full model. Just giving you the 4 GB chunk at the first thing. I mean, it shows how good our connectivity is these days, that it didn't show up that much, that people just realized it randomly. I mean, I've got Olama running, and I've got lots of models on my machine. So I got like 40 gig of my hard drive, just random LLMs. But that's by choice. I made that choice and I downloaded it. So showing that in the background is an interesting thing. I remember when Google always asked you to download an extension to allow for copy and paste inside Google Docs as well. So that always felt a bit over the top as well, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I think with all of these challenges, it comes down to communication and being open about what you're going to do, right? And if you ever overstep those boundaries, that's where you create challenges for yourself. I'm sure the argument of user experience, right, is the motivation for this. And actually, I'm a huge fan of removing barriers for people to consume and be able to use technology. Yeah. But it feels for the time, a step too far, right? breaking the norm more than you could have guessed would have been acceptable, right? Yeah.
I think the weird thing here as well is that it's on a browser level. I would expect something like that to be on the machine level or on the operating system level. I mean, iPhones now have on-device AI turned on without users knowing, because it basically just comes with the operating system, and then it wouldn't be a worry. But like that one browser does it. Like, what if the others do it as well? And all of a sudden, I've got like 16 gig of my hard drive gone. Like,
yeah, because multiple browsers is the norm for most people, right? Even if they've got Edge and Chrome installed, or Safari and Chrome installed, even if they only use one of them, the fact that multiple exists, yeah, you're right, creates that challenge.
And Matt pointed it out, like that's the other problem, that like the terms of it's a web standard, but then it's also tied to terms of use. But that's nothing new either. I remember when HTML5 came out and Firefox had to make a decision which DRM to use to play back HTML5 video, because you needed to display DRM content in the browser, and that's only possible with a CDN rather than on device. Probably nowadays it's on device as well, but back then it was only like, okay, you had to use a CDN to serve the stuff, because otherwise Netflix and Spotify and those things wouldn't have worked in Firefox, because they want DRM for better or worse, because just downloading videos, that's just anarchy, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's an interesting tension, and it would be interesting to see what they had to say. I might get a few people involved and talk to them, because I mean, I don't want to people go like, "Ooh, evil company." Google has lots of great people in it. I think the prompt API is the right way to go, rather than just like having everything in an app or having everything in Claude or in an agent itself. Like that, the browser taps into the model makes total sense. But yeah, the consent bit was the bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting one as well, that Edge had the problem that the passwords are in memory in plain text, and it's not a security concern according to them. Again, I worked on that team. I was very surprised to hear that, but yeah,
so was I. I mean, not a security concern, and I think the article sort of states, well, if somebody if somebody could gain access to these passwords stored in plain text, the machine would have already been compromised. And I find that quite a weak argument. It's like, well, we don't have to worry about it because it's somebody else's problem, and it just doesn't feel like it's a thought out choice. It felt like it almost feels like it's an implementation sort of, we'll implement this without a thought out choice of should we do that, and then it doesn't matter afterwards.
Yeah. Again, I think the same argument was made by Google back then when we asked why there is no master password for decrypting the passwords. And basically said, like, if you have that access to that machine that far, either from an extension or from just physical access, then there's no way to save it anyways. I mean, you could, I guess nowadays you could actually set it together with like a fingerprint on the machine or like a passkey on the machine. So that would be another option of doing that. But yeah, I think it's like people like to shoot against big companies immediately. But yeah, the argument could have been made better about why it is that way that it is. And it's always the thing, like, I mean, we tell people to use a password manager, but at the same time, it's like a single point of failure as well. And then we had a lot of them going away. Like, I mean, Dashlane used to be a big thing, and I don't see that anymore. Like, what was it? Dropbox had a password manager that is not anymore. So feels like everybody is just, that's like a hot potato nobody wants to do any longer.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it is absolutely the right choice, because it prevents people from using the same password in in every place, because we can't. I mean, I had a look on my password manager the other day. I've got something like 384 passwords, and that doesn't feel extreme, right? That feels probably pretty typical. Yeah. I can't remember 384 passwords, and without a password manager, they would all be the same or a variation of, right? Which represents a bigger security concern. It's just about that, like, how do we manage that risk, that risk profile? I remember having quite a lengthy conversation about what is better, having the same password for all of your accounts or writing them in a book, right?
Well, I think the idea is, if you can remember your password, it's not safe enough. That's the other problem. Like, I mean, it seems like the whole concept of a password, and I shouldn't talk because I lost access to X because of a phishing scam that I fell for, and I don't have any of my recovery passwords, so I don't know, because I set them in 2006 or 2005. So I'm like, how the hell would I know that any longer, kind of thing. But yeah, the idea of a password being memorable and easy is dangerous, because hackers don't hack your machine; they log in with your password that was baseball 123, which is a very common one, sadly enough.
Yeah, so that idea of, is it safer to have them all the same or to have them in a book? The argument that was proposed to me, which is, if they're all different and you protect that book in the same way that you protect your master password, Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like when you're in offices and you look under the keyboard and people have a sticky note with their passwords and change it every week. Like, I watched War Games again the other day, and that was the bit where they had this thing, the password changes every week, but they write it down. Talking about security things, I love that one of the biggest things about Mythos being released, Cloud Mythos, was that Firefox actually did a whole analysis with it and found like 271 vulnerabilities, and almost none of them were false positives. And they do like a whole, as you would expect from Mozilla, they do like a whole explanation and roundup and giving you the information what happened there. And I found the no false positives really fascinating, because I would have expected it to be much more of the, like, here's the most obvious things, but turns out Firefox had a lot of security issues, like every piece of software has. But I love that they're very transparent about it and saying, like, here's the things that it found. Also interesting that in an open source, that a company that is as closed and like coveted with Mythos, that they gave it to the open source, loud, communicative company first. But yeah.
I did. I must admit, when I saw the title, or sorry, when I saw that headline, my first thought was, really? Right?
Yeah.
Really? But to your point, they've backed it up with good research, with good data, right? And it's a positive thing. Yeah. We should be applauding it rather than my first almost cynical view of it. Really, right?
Yeah, that many bugs, you mean? Like, oh, there were so many security concerns in there. Yeah. I mean, browsers are a very much an attacked platform, and what is interesting, that a browser doesn't make any money. Nobody pays for a browser. We used to with Opera and with Netscape as well, but you pay for services around the browser, like your Gmail, your YouTube subscription, and these kind of things. They're a gateway drug to services into the company rather than just anything like that. So a lot of companies build a browser and then fire the whole department that built it, or get rid of them and have like 2 or 3 maintaining engineers, because it's a loss leader. It does not make any money, so it's really tricky to do that. And of course, the biggest story about it was Internet Explorer 6, when the whole department got fired and nobody maintained the thing for like decades and decades, and that's basically what held the web back. I guess Mozilla also cut down a bit, and then like 271 is not uncommon. Like people don't disclose them as much as they did, which brings us to the last bit of news, that the NHS is taken a lot of their open source stuff and actually turns it into closed source because of over AI and security concerns. So
yeah, I think I mean I'm going to be completely honest. My first thought when reading this was I was actually quite surprised that NHS open sourced open sourced anything, or at least much. I took a moment to think about that though, and actually the UK government has always been a proponent of open sourcing where they can. And that trickles down to services and contractors and projects that are funded by UK government as well. So again, it makes good sense. The thing that I worry about is more that this sets a precedent rather than a one-off or sort of a moment to kind of reflect. We'll close source this stuff while we reflect, assess, work out what we're going to do, work out what a strategy looks like. I hope that's what they do, right? And actually say, okay,
it plays into the larger story of like open source repos with mythos being around and mythos being obvious. I mean, there has always been dark patterns like that in the past with hackers and nation players and these kind of things, but now we have it there, and a lot of people are actually start closing down their repos because people are having agents roaming the web that basically do security scanning more obviously rather than attackers in the past. So I think that plays into that story as well, like how much out of a sudden an open source repo becomes a very much taking much more of your time because of these pull requests coming in of like people doing security scanning. And also I have people like going like, oh, do you have a bug bounty program because I found a bug on christianheilmann.com? And I'm like, well, it's a WordPress site. So yeah, I don't have a bug bounty program because I'm not a company. I have a .com domain, but I don't make any money with the thing. So please tell me what the problem is, and then I can feed back to WordPress. But I think that's a bigger issue, that the open source repos are now seen as like a testing ground for your attack agents. Now let's play with a few things. This was going around for a few people. A few people talked about this. Somebody in Shopify built this. So this is basically the whole canvas in HTML gone wild. So these are HTML pages that
it's
basically
crazy.
You can now tear like that. And of course, it's so much more fun on mobile phone. Yeah. But it's pretty bonkers what you can do in the browser with that.
I mean, I'm genuinely always impressed by the things that people can do with HTML and CSS, and I think it comes from starting my career writing websites when CSS wasn't widely supported through multiple browsers, so we were restricted in terms of what we could do with it. It's an incredible feat of working under constraint and exploring what you can do, and I love that idea.
I mean, that's the thing. Like Canvas had always had like WebGL opportunities as well. So, but Canvas was just a bitmap with an array behind it, and now we can actually render HTML elements into it, and that gives us these kind of functionality. I love that it's just very whimsical and fun.
Yeah. And I like the idea of ripping off, an online present. The wrappings of an online present. I love that as an idea. Yeah.
This is also pretty bonkers. This is basically a font that allows you to create charts, and this is again TTF being a special data format. So you don't need to have graphics. You can actually get that in that font, and I don't know what it does to performance, but it's basically just put it like in there, data type, font family. And then you can actually do spans like that, and that would render as charts. I found that fascinating as well.
Yeah, I love the very simple API attached to it.
Yeah, it's a bit like ASCII art as a TTF. So that's pretty cool. MS-DOS is open source, so in case you want to take a look at that one, that's also a fun thing to do. Have you started with DOS or have you started with Windows in your career?
I started with DOS. I started with Not even when I'm trying to think of what DOS version it was. Probably was it 3.5 was the, well, I'm going to call it the big one, the one that was around for a while. That was probably where I started. Yeah, I probably didn't use a Windows machine or a machine with a Windows style interface probably until I went to sort of post 16 education, maybe even post 18 education.
Yeah, I started with C64 and then Amiga, and then jumped into DOS, Windows 3.11 as my first computer at work, and of course using DOS bits under the hood all the time. And my servers were always Unix and Linux then. And yeah, that was, I mean, I remember the first time I installed Apache on my machine, I felt like a complete hacker, and I'm like, got my own server now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I remember using a DOS-based spreadsheet, the name of which escapes me right now, but that was the first spreadsheet I learned to use.
There was text adventures, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was also available as a text adventure, and that one had a panic button in it that would show an access database in DOS. So in case your boss would look over your shoulder, that shows just how old that kind of stuff was as well. But it's pretty cool that these things are now open sourced, and I think it's not a security problem anymore. But it's great to see how these things were made back then. So that's interesting. A few tips and tricks. I like this one. This is a barcode writer in JavaScript, because a lot of people use like third-party services to upload things to create barcodes. Of course, you can always generate barcodes in the browser as well. But I thought this was a very cool API as well to allow you to create PNG and SVG barcodes. And the really interesting thing is that it has this playground and just shows you just how many different barcodes are there. I had no idea. Like, it's just pretty bonkers how many of them you could try out. So
yeah, in my world, there are only two. There are the traditional barcode, the horizontal ones, and the QR code. Anything else outside of that, I have no idea.
So these are all the barcodes that exist. This is bonkers, isn't it?
That is crazy.
I didn't know. But yeah, fun. The other thing that I always annoys me about things is that that when you generate AI, you get like an image and you don't get layers. So this is actually a tool by Canvas that does like object detection in images to create layers from it, so you can edit them in Photoshop and stuff. So I found that really interesting that there's a tool like that. We have a lot of tools for replacing backgrounds, but we're not having that one yet. I wonder how good it is, because normally I go into Photoshop and then do the magic outline thing, and then copy it into an own layer. So this is now possible automatically from Canva here. I think that's a really neat idea as well.
I must admit, when I went to this site, I did exactly what you're doing now, which is just scroll up and down and see those layers. I loved that. Yeah,
that's always the problem when you do designs in CSS as well, and you end up like going like, ooh, my rollover is so cute, instead of writing the code. But absolutely, that's a cool tool as well. Now, before we go into your program, let's play something. You're my only person this time to talk to.
The expectation is overwhelming.
All right, so let's play Fake or News. All right, I once again collected lots and lots of interesting bits. So let's see if you can tell me if that's a real headline or something that I made up in a fever dream.
Okay, I'm ready.
New browser plugin adds typos to your AI-generated emails to make them look real.
Real. Gotta be.
Yep, it's news.
Yes.
Fake DDR5 sticks with dummy plastic chips are the latest RAM scam.
News. Oh, 2 for 2. Right.
Adding meme images with display none to websites lures agents into identifying themselves as bots.
I'm going to say that is fake.
Correct.
Oh.
GPT-5.5 finds 8 unpatched vulnerabilities into Anthropic Mythos minutes after release.
Oh, I love the meta-ness of that. I want it to be news.
It's fake.
Oh, it's fake. Oh.
Some kids are bypassing age verification checks with a fake mustache.
News.
Yep.
I actually heard that one. Yeah.
Next, they would stack each other on and wear a trench coat, right?
Yeah.
Meta will use AI to analyze height and bone structure to identify if users are underage.
Ooh, fake.
News.
Oh, it's news. Oh, okay.
Refurbished hardware markets selling Mac Minis with utterly broken cases as demand soar. Soar.
News.
It's fake, and I typed soar wrong. Jesus.
Oh my god, yeah.
User just tricked Grok and Bank Robot to send tokens with Morse code.
Oh, that's so specific. I'm going to say it's news.
It was news.
Yeah.
OpenAI adds animated pets and config imports to Codex.
You can see them doing it, but I'm going to go fake.
News.
That was news. Oh.
Writing prompts in Limerick form uses 20% less tokens, researchers find.
News.
Fake.
I started well. It's all falling apart.
HTML and Canvas vulnerability exposes millions of higher education internets.
News.
It's fake. The real news is that Canvas, the education tool, has been hacked and is under ransomware attack at the moment. It was not HTML Canvas, but it's called Canvas, so that's why I put that up there. The Limerick one is a very interesting one. I once gave a talk in Mozilla in the form of Dr. Seuss, as in a rhyme form, together with a colleague of mine. So I said one thing, she said another thing. And we managed to actually finish the presentation in 12 minutes instead of 35 minutes by rhyming. And funnily enough, a lot of the audience remembered the things much better because we did it that way. So it seems like that rhyming or singing information is a really good way of getting things across. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Limerick bit would also be interesting for LLMs, but that was just fascinating because we sit on stage. Okay, we went through the whole presentation. Damn it, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, answer questions. I have a fact to bring to this, or I believe it is true. I've been told it was true, and this is unrelated to our conversation today. It was International Limerick Day yesterday.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Interesting. I mean, who defines these things? I mean, there's got to be Towel Days again soon, so I'm very happy about that one.
Mm.
And the May the 5th thing when we were in America, that the May the 4th thing, it became so commercial. That's really annoying. Or the superb owl joke that was also in every TV show that you see by now. So yeah, I mean, the geek stuff should stay geek stuff. I don't know if I'm elitist because of that, but it feels weird that it becomes a mainstream thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. So you have stuff to show us and to talk about things. What did you prepare for us?
So I want to show you one of the projects that I have been working on. Let me just move everything into the right place so that when I share my screen, there we go. Excellent. So, thank you first of all for inviting me. My name is Martin O'Hanlon. I work for Neo4j. If you don't know, Neo4j is the world's leading graph intelligence platform, and Neo4j allows us to store data within a graph. Vertices and edges, nodes and relationships, however you want to describe them. But what I want to talk about is I want to look at how we can use graphs and AI to understand message streams, right? And specifically a message stream that's very personal to me. So, first of all, oh, I managed to press the wrong button then. So first of all, oh my goodness, what have I done? There we go. Apologies. So first of all, like message streams are like streams of data, like the backbone of modern computing, right? And they come from everywhere, you know, whether it's servers, call centers, unread emails, customer complaints, financial services transactions, owl post. I was sort of running out of ideas, or like, you know, application server logs, you know, these streams of data, you know, even manufacturing robots, or, you know, just like web clicks, you know, these streams of data are absolutely endless, right? And like, it's not as if this data is easy for us to consume either, right? There is so much of it, right? But it's so hard to consume. And there is a absolute gold mine of really useful information hidden in all of these logs. So not just like what happened, but also like context around like why something happens, how a process works, you know, why decisions were made, right? And, you know, if we want to analyze this information, typically queries return stuff that's just endless streams of text, which again is really hard for us to see our way through. So I have a message stream that is quite personal to me. This is a group of friends that I have known forever, certainly for all of my adult life. And we have a WhatsApp group. It is it is a real mix of information that we use in order to, you know, stay connected. And if we kind of look at some stats of this thing, there are 6 people that contribute to this thing. There are over 18,000 messages, and it's not like an application log or customer correspondence. The subjects are wide and varied, you know, beer, car maintenance, tech projects, down to taking a picture of something and saying, I don't know what this is called. Can you help? Right. But ultimately, it is absolutely essential to me. It is the only way I know what is going on. This is the message stream that informs quite a reasonable chunk of my life. So I find myself often in this situation. I have 58 unread messages. Like what has been going on, right? You know, what's the deal here? So I had an idea, and my idea was, right, I want to make sense of this information. What happens if I take this message stream, I export it, I do some analysis on it, pulling out the things that are important, and then I build a graph. So I build a graph that shows me the connections between all of this information, how and how it's structured. That was my plan, and I did that. I built a graph. Now the structure of the graph is really simple. It basically says there are messages and there are people. People can post messages, and messages can mention people, and every message has a follow-on message, apart from the one at the very end, obviously. But every message has will have a next message ultimately. So that's what I did. I took my message stream, I took my WhatsApp group, I did some analysis, and I created a graph from it. So let's have a look at the graph, right? So here is my graph, and we can look at those messages. So this is a message stream of the first 50 messages in that WhatsApp group. And if we zoom in, we can see that this graph is made up of circles and lines, or nodes and relationships. And this is how we store and structure data in a graph. So let's have a look at this node here. So it is a node. It has a label. So the label is message. Labels allow us to define and categorize data. So we know that this node is a message, and we can see that it has a relationship of the type next to another node. And there is a node before it that has another relationship to this node. Nodes and relationships can have properties, and properties is how we store data in a graph. So this node has some dates, the text of the message, and kind of like times it was sent, so on and so forth. And if we expand on one of these nodes, so let's pick one. What about this one? We can see that this node has relationships to other nodes. So there is a node here, which represents a person. It has a person label, and there is a posted relationship between this node and this message. So we can refer that this person, Rupert Hideaway, posted this message. This still cracks me up. And we can use, and I can use this data now to do, like, interesting things like count the messages. So there are 18181. That pattern pleases me greatly. Messages. This is a cipher query that basically says I'm looking for all of the nodes with a message label, and then just count them. Right. Cipher query language for Neo4j. It's a superset and subset of GQL, the graph query language, and that allows you to query and interrogate graphs. I can do other things like, let's go and find a very specific message. So find this one message that happens to be a message just with a smiley face. If I expand it, we can see that it was posted by Rupert and is comes after this message. That evening's okay, and before this message. So this message mentions a guy called Z Taylor. If I expand the relationships from that, we can see that actually this message was posted by me, but it mentions this guy here. And this is how we can kind of use this graph to understand the kind of structure of this message stream. We can also do things like, find out who posts the most messages. Well, it's a guy called Stan Fisher. I'm number 3, and right down the bottom is a guy called Gaz, who is way off the number count for the number of messages. We can also see things like, okay, well, who's mentioned most frequently? Well, we can see that the person that's mentioned most frequently is Z. And if we look at the mentioned relationship, so this message here, while it was posted by me, it mentions this guy. We can see that actually one of the things I thought would be fun was, if a message mentions somebody else, I should try and work out the sentiment. Like, is that a positive message or is it a negative message? And this was deemed to be a positive message. Z Taylor is already out, but I'm free. It mentioned Z and was given a score. But we can do other things like, who is mentioned. Sorry, who is mentioned? Who mentions people most positively? So who's the positive person in this group? Who is the person that says, like, more often than not says positive things? And it turns out it's Gaz Speller, right? Although he's only posted 191 messages, 8 of them reference somebody else, and 4%, and that represents 4% positivity. Tandy Gnome's right down the bottom with 1 point something percent. So this is how we can, by taking our data into a graph, this kind of stream of messages, this sort of constant flow of data, we can answer interesting questions. And yeah, here are some of the stats, right? The one I'm going to point out is who is mentioned most frequently, Z. Most prolific poster is Stan. Yeah, and we saw that Gaz was, while the most positive about other people, is actually the least posted the least amount of information. Yeah. So I wanted to move on and ask more complex, more thought-provoking questions. So rather than like statistics, the what happened, which our graph was very, very good at delivering, I wanted to ask questions like, what engages Gaz in conversation? Like how can I interrogate this information? So ultimately, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take my graph, right? I wanted to take the messages out of it, and I wanted to use that as context so that I can build a prompt to give to an AI agent, because unlike me, they don't care how much information you give them, providing you within a large token limit. And they are really good at that text analytics. Because what I want is I want a summary of what's going on. Going back to that, about 58 unread messages. What am I going to do? Right? What's going on? I don't want to read them all. I want somebody to summarize that for me so I can understand. So this was my want. Like any good computer programmer, I made myself a design which started with a graph and said, okay, well, this is where my data lives. So what I'll do is I'll put an MCP server on top of that. So MCP protocol that allows us to provide tools to agents. So tools allowing us an agent to do a thing, to either access data, change things, real world operations. So I had my MCP server. I'd give it a collection of tools. So get people information, search for messages, get messages by person, get recent messages, get a previous message, get message detail. So tools that would allow an agent to interact with my data. And like, just to kind of point of note, relatively simple tools, simple descriptions, but will allow us, or allow our agent, access to this information and to be able to get context relevant information and data. All right, so then I stick an agent on the front of it. So let's have a look at this. So we've seen my graph. We have, and we sort of understand this basic structure of chains of messages. This being the first 50 messages, and this idea that people post messages, and people have lots of messages. So if I expand the relationships from Stan, we can see that Stan has posted a huge number of messages, some of which are in that message chain, that conversation that we described earlier. So this is my data source. So I created a little MCP server that would talk to this graph with those tools. Get people, get messages, so on and so forth. All right. So what we can see here is I've got my little MCP server running. In VS Code, I've set up an MCP server. So my co-pilot or my agent can communicate through this MCP server to be able to gain information about my WhatsApp message store. So let's give it a go. Maybe make this a little bit better. Yeah. So what's happening on WhatsApp? In fact, I'm just going to just curse this with use the MCP server, because this code repo actually includes, and I'll share it later, all of the code to create this MCP server. So use the MCP server to answer questions. What's happening on WhatsApp? And we'll see what it does, right? So my agent's going to go through, and I'll query your local WhatsApp MCP server for recent activity. And it's got those collection of tools. So what it's going to see is we can say, okay, well, first off, I'm going to run get recent messages. I'm going to go in based on the question you've given me, which is what's happening on WhatsApp. Let's go and get the recent messages. And we can see that it sent in, said, well, get me the last 40 messages. And also get me some people information as well. Give me some information about the people who are in this conversation. So it gets people information. So interestingly, it also did it also queried the database. There's a tool, this catch-all query message database, which will turn natural language into a query. So summarize what's happening. Yeah. And here's what's happening on WhatsApp. The latest burst of messages is from around May 4th. Looks like people completing a task following a thank you. Recent key event was a fundraiser push. Martin shared. I was doing a cancer research race for life last weekend, and I asked this group of people to give me money. Money for the charity, not for me. And then other conversations such as, social chat, movies, discussions, and it's given me some information about who's participating in what. Now I know that I asked people to donate. So let's delve into that a little bit further and say, did everyone donate to Martin? I love these live demos, particularly ones where you're using agents which are non-deterministic, so you don't know what's going to come back, right? But anyway, so it's gone off. So I'll check the chat logs for further information. I got a large set of done messages, right? So it's gone off and said donate. It's gone back and done some information. It's basically said, I can't prove everyone donated from the chat, so I'm going to run a precise query. So ultimately, what it's looking to do is capture and gather the data that it needs. So not from the chat evidence, no. What I can confirm the MCP data is that 3 people did actually respond. Z Sailor, Stan Fisher, Rupert Hideaway. And there's no explicit information. So some likely donated, but not everyone confirmed, right? So we can analyze this, what is a huge amount of data, very quickly to find kind of like information and to find summaries as well. Now I know that there was a conversation about solar panels. I'm sort of interested in that. Yeah. What was said about solar panels? So yeah, I can kind of continue this conversation. So it's going to go off, and again, it's going to search for messages, and it's going to come back and give me a summary of what goes on. There we go. It's talking about, do your batteries run out? Gaspar, premium prices have dropped. Now I know that. Well, I'm sort of interested to understand, like what are the group's motivations for energy saving. So again, allow me to kind of like delve into what's been happening. Again, use this concept of searching messages and using the agent or the LLM to very quickly analyze what is like just data that we don't like to read, we don't like to use and consume. And it's gone off and said, okay, well, now I have clear cost saving evidence. What about eco stuff? I'll create separate tariff and planet related. So here we go. From the MCP, from the WhatsApp data, motivations look like saving money, better return on investment, using cheap rate timing, increased energy self-sufficiency control, environmental motivation is present but secondary. And do you know what? That feels like a really good summary of this group and their behaviors and why they make some of those decisions. Now that sort of like why is very much hidden within this data. Yeah. But by using our graph that allows us to very quickly understand conversations by the relationships between messages and by who made them, by aligning relationships to by aligning messages to people, we can sort of see, okay, well, what's happening. But the question I want to exist is why doesn't Gaz post very often? Right, I'm worried about him, right? It's like he's less than 5% of the rest of us, right? So let's see if we can find out some information why. So again, it's going through, it's got people information, it's getting messages by person. I don't see any explicit, so it's looking for, actually, has Gaz described the reason why he does that? There's no clear evidence, but it's giving me some clues, right? His message is that it's intermittent but ongoing, mostly short, reactive one-liners. One clue about life context that he mentions: re-entering the corporate world, working for Virgin Money. So maybe he's busy. Also jokes about freelance life, right? So the safest answer is he still posts, but just much more less often. But what I would like to also do is, is there hints in this message data that would allow me to, like well, I want him to come to the pub, right? How can I engage Gaz to come to the pub? I want to see this guy. What hints and tips can I find? What's there? And again, can go off, pull back some data, use that data, use that message structure to find concrete information about why. So what have we done? We've searched for some messages. We've reviewed that data. Again, it's done a sort of this catch-all database query, and it's given me back some recommendations. None of this is explicitly mentioned within that message structure, but he does respond when he is directly tagged, when the plan is concrete and there's a clear task. Yeah, and it's given me some recommendations, right? Gaspella, curry +2 pubs this Saturday. Honestly, that feels very much like something we would say. Park Tavern is a pub down the road from me. Last seat with your name on it, right? So direct conversations and information is what's going to allow us to get Gaz out and in the room. All right. So let's run back to here. This very simple structure of having a graph database that allows us to understand relationships, relationships in a much better way, with a simple MCP server with a relatively simple API. Giving that to an agent allows us to analyze what is data which is really, really difficult for us to understand and get good context, not just what happened, but how, why, and how we can kind of change things in the future. Like all of this is open source. You can find it in my GitHub repo. There's a repo called What's That. It's got the code you need to create a graph, the MCP server, and example queries and all of those sorts of things. Just the final thing is a lot of my work is creating educational content for Neo4j. This is our completely free, and I do mean completely free, online training platform. So if you want to know more about graphs and about how you can use Neo4j for generative AI applications, including courses like building MCP servers, this is a great place to go. Yeah, so it has been lovely to spend a little bit of time talking to you.
Very cool. So the idea here is by doing the graph first, you made the agent of the MCP work and the agent work much lighter, because just doing a text search over the whole data set would have been like super expensive in terms of tokens. That's what the power of the graph in between is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The graph allows us to target and gain good context, right? And good context is just enough, right? If you have too much, you risk hallucination, confusion, not being able to pick out the right information, right? And there may be a world, right, in the future where I can give an AI my entire 18,000 messages. But even if I can, right, the more data I give it, the less likely it is to be able to pick out the things that are important. And that's what my graph allows me to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did you get the information out? Because it's end-to-end encrypted normally, isn't it? Just did you authenticate with your SU, or how did you get it out?
No, I mean, so what WhatsApp does come with a business API as well that you can use. I didn't use that. If you use the WhatsApp app on your phone, there's an option that says export chat, and it'll just export it to a text file. that's all I did, right? Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, relatively simple, low-tech solution, right?
And it's pretty cool to do this kind of research, because you don't. I mean, I have a lot of groups as well, and you basically miss a lot of things, and there's like pinging people directly or these kind of things. But just doing a bit of analysis over the while, it's just amazing how many stories you find. Like, hey, did you know that that person only talks when it's about money? Did you only do that? Like, it's fascinating to see the deeper meaning in those things, because you went from the relationships of the data rather than just the data itself.
Yeah, exactly right. And and that's where graph databases and Neo4j really come into their own. It's the phrase I use quite often is Neo4j is the best solution for you where your relationships are as important as the data itself. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, we're out of time. We were right at the dot, so that was really good. Thanks very much for the demo. I hope people play with it. We're going to link the repo in the description later on. And that was it for today with WeAreDevelopers Live from Martin Hanlon and me. Any last words for our audience out there? Anything you want people to do?
No, other than it's been great to talk to you. And if you want to learn more about Neo4j, go to Graph Academy.
Exactly. And if you meet Neo4j at a conference, they have great socks, which I learned last week.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at the Congress in Berlin in July? Or?
I will be in Berlin in July, yes. I welcome anybody to come and talk to me. I love to talk to people.
What made you, what gets you most excited about the event, like about the Congress? Have you been before, or do you want to come again?
It's what I get most excited about is the range of conversations I have, right? Is the fact that that it is developer centric, that people are enthused, and people always come to me with ideas, and I love that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Martin. Thanks very much for watching, and we're going to see you next Wednesday for the next WeAreDevelopers Live. And that was it for us. Thank you. Bye bye.